for joining us tonight. So we have a another interesting topic that we're going to be dropping jewels on you all about, and it is navigating attachment styles when dating and in relationships. So what does this mean? Just something else for you all to be aware of when it comes to how you basically are cohesive in your relationship and the style that you portray your characteristics um, and the way that you, I guess, handle your relationship as far as cohesiveness, your way of doing cohesiveness and teamwork in the
Mhm.
relationship.
Yes.
Is that close?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right on. Because really, the attachment theory is a psychological theory that really describes the way people form close relationships, and it's really based. Well, it was developed within the 1950s and the 1960s from John Bowlby, and basically he was saying that based on how we were brought up from our caregivers, plural or singular, then it's usually the dynamic of that relationship is really ultimately a huge impact on how we form our romantic relationships and how, like you said, we behave in them, our
Hmm.
behaviors. And this is even something that is shown in dating. And this was actually brought up from a great question that we received. So you want to head on into that?
Sure. You want
Let's
me to read it?
Well, just your mention. I'm gonna pull it on up first.
You gonna read it?
Yeah,
Okay.
just I gotta pull it on up. Hold on. Yeah.
And then so for the Instagram viewers as well, like we
Hold on.
always say, if you want to follow along and read with us, you can do so on YouTube. Also on YouTube, we have our HD sound and also our HD video as well. So feel free to join in. And also too, if you know anybody who needs to hear this, please share the video. Tell them to jump on in and see what we have going on and what our topic is tonight. So and as always, this is a live call-in show as well. So if you all have any questions, concerns, or topics that you want us to discuss, please feel free to leave a comment. You can chime in and want to video call or either voice call us, and we'll be more than glad to accept it. So let's dive right on in.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. Happy Monday. It's a new week.
Hmm.
So let me go ahead and share this up on our YouTube. And we'll dive right on in. Okay, so the subject was not sure. The message said, I am a third year student and I met a guy a few weeks ago in my school who is different in a good way. He is not my typical go to guy that I would date, but he really impressed me when we first met, and he ticks most of my boxes. I just can't help but feel this is too good to be true since I haven't been the luckiest when it comes to love. Usually now I make friends, but be surface level enough that I can talk simple things on a semi regular basis, but I don't get too attached. He has mentioned to me how serious he wants him and I to be, but I just told him I can only be friends with benefits with him to avoid heartbreak.
Wow.
I just feel like what he feels for me will change at some point. Advice?
All right. Did you want to just jump right in, or can we dissect this a little bit?
Yeah, that's it. Go
All right.
ahead.
Well, some things that I see as a red flag. Um, she's dating this young woman. She's 30 years, so that'll be her junior year in college. My
Mhm.
guess is college. I hope. So she's dating and she's in college, and she's also she's out of the box. So she's met someone else who's it doesn't fit the mold of what she typically dates. So now she's happy, right? Is she happy in a way?
I think it's kind of too soon. It's a
Just
few
can't
weeks
help
in.
but feel that it's too good. Okay, so she's
Yeah.
she's kind of fearful in this relationship.
Mhm.
The thing is this
Well,
she's
it's not even a relationship. They just met a few
right. Well,
weeks.
they're friends with benefits.
Yeah.
That's what she's
Yeah.
want to keep it as, and he's want to keep it turn into something else more than this.
Mhm.
Um, that she's dating her peers, so
Mhm.
she's going to have to understand and also be satisfied with the fact that they're going to have to struggle love this thing on out. Being the fact that they're going to come out of college with debt. I don't know what their situation is, but more than likely you're going to come out with debt to pay, and you all going to have to struggle together to get the things that you all want in life
It's
together.
yeah, and struggle love also is growing up together too, because you're young.
Right.
And that's really what's kind of happening here. She's now relationships would do that. When you meet a spouse or somebody who you're interested in and want to have a relationship, then it will often present to you the things that you need to address within yourself that you haven't, right?
Right.
So in a way,
refinement.
Yep, in a way, this is her moment of growing up. With
but
this,
I don't think I don't think friends with benefits is
no,
the key.
Certainly she's running away from it.
Yeah, she's running away from a relationship because of past trauma,
Mhm.
her failed relationships in the past, in which she probably extended herself or overextended herself and didn't get the results that she needed, or either
Right.
maybe there were things that were wrong with her that prevented her from moving further in her relationships
Mhm.
until now. This is very typical for young women who've been in multiple relationships and
Mhm.
wanting them to go further. And young women, you all have to realize this, that these young guys that you all are dating, they're not yet providers. So you're going to they're going to want to have to struggle with you and foresee what that looks like.
And build and
Right.
grow.
Build and grow. And
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. But she also has to have realistic expectations. I don't know what her expectations are.
Yeah.
So if she's wanting somebody, I don't know, who's going to come out, start making six figures, more than likely that ain't the case. If she's going to want somebody to pay her college loans, I don't know. Who knows? But
Yeah.
that is, what she's going through is very typical for college people who are dating their peers. And she's going through this phase of dating multiple guys, or have been dated multiple guys, which I would not condone that on a physical or spiritual level.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, this is the main part that stands out to me that sparked this whole topic for tonight, where she says, usually now I make friends, but be surface level, that I can talk simple things on a semi-regular basis, but I don't get too attached.
And then she wants to sleep with these people too.
Now,
that's risky.
Mhm.
That is very risky behavior. And she needs to really revise her life and what she wants out of it. Instead of avoidance.
And why is she doing this?
Well,
that's the most important thing.
She's
figuring out, why am I doing this? Why is it that I have a great guy right here in front of me and I'm choosing just to be friends with benefits with him?
Well, it's because she wants to avoid the heartbreak.
Yeah.
That's what she's saying, because the past relationship ended up in a broken heart. But the thing is, her problem is that she's dating her peers. Why don't you date somebody who's older than you?
Well, I don't even think just that, because here he is one of his peers and he's looking to be serious. I just think it's just fear. All of this sounds personal, to be completely honest, like in personal sense for her, and not so much like he is really doing anything. If anything, she's going to end up making him pay for what she had been through in the past.
No, he's just going to leave.
Right. Or he just, right.
And then she's going to keep doing this, and
yeah.
she's going to end up being cold and bitter and be like, hey, relationships will never work out for me, so don't even try it.
Right.
And then that's the problem, is that she's picking wrong.
Yeah.
If we could figure out what her expectations were, that would really help solve this, because you could tell whether or not they're realistic or not. Right. And a lot of females her age don't have realistic expectations. They don't. Well, you can tell because she's settling for the friends with benefits. I'll just settle for friends with benefits. No, then why don't you just actually look for somebody who can provide and protect for you?
Well, yeah, and we don't, and like you said, this is kind of too soon. We kind of really don't know much. She didn't give much with this question, but pretty much enough to know that this guy could be someone who is, she didn't say what year he was in school, whatever. He could be older. He could be at that point. And the main thing is she would miss out on that if he is saying he wants to be serious with her. He wants to be more than benefits. He wants to be that provider and protector. If he is saying all of these things, then the only thing that's standing in the way is herself.
That's a big if.
Right. But
because when I was in college, I was nobody's provider.
Right. No,
other than my own. And I wasn't even trying to provide and protect for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But in this case, they could, again, like we were saying, try to the struggle love and build and grow together. So he could be looking to do this, and you don't want to cancel out that opportunity. And the only person that would be her. That's why I think it's really important to get.
But that'll be our advice to her
about
that. So, I mean, we gave her two options. She can either look for an older person who may consider wanting to provide and protect for her, who already is a provider, or either she needs to struggle love this thing out and take her chance.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say that's the issue.
No, I
Again,
mean,
I
but
really,
that
yeah.
I'm
Because
not the
even
issue,
if
but
she
the
had the
advice.
older guy, even if she had the older guy, she would still probably choose to be friends with benefits with an older guy who was a protector and a provider, because she is having what we're going to dig into. What I really see, and
Trauma.
again, yeah, it's the trauma. It's
Yeah, she needs to
'cause
get that
the
fixed first.
attachment
Yeah.
theory. Yeah, really. Okay, so like we were talking about with this whole attachment theory thing, it was really discovered that our attachment style is formed in early childhood, and it's based on our interactions with our primary caregivers, plural or singular.
Parents.
Yeah, basically. So, or adopted, your caregiver, whoever, grandma, grandpa, whoever.
Guardians.
Yeah, yep, whoever is taking care of you. So, if your caregivers were responsible, responsive, supportive, then you are more likely to have a secure attachment style. And if our caregivers were not, if they were inconsistent or unavailable, then chances are you're going to have one of the other ones, which we're going to go through tonight, all of them, because honestly, I think it wouldn't matter who the guy was that appeared. It could be God that appears to her. But if she is fearful, if she is avoidant, if she is anxious, she will reject it. And she just naturally, in a way, will self-sabotage.
Right. And that's how a lot of, good women lose good men.
Good opportunities.
Or good opportunities, or either don't give it a chance or get into a relationship being fearful and say it is going to end anyway. So let me just act accordingly.
Right. And I part of that, I empathize because I understand the part of being hurt. But then the other part of me is like, when you're a child, for example, this is one of the easiest correlations I can make to it. And when you're a child and you're going to ride a bike, when you fall down off that bike, you don't stop trying to get on the bike and try it again. You keep going. You try it again. You try it again. You try it again. Maybe you learn from the times you fell down. Maybe you learned not to turn that way. Maybe you learned to push a little harder. Whatever it is that you learned when you fell down, you take that and you apply that to the next time. You don't just give up and avoid the bike, throw the whole bike away and say, I ain't never riding a bike again. I mean, maybe to some of the extreme, children in that sense, but most children don't. Most children would want to do that. And that's kind of the same aspect but the same ideology you have to have when it comes to relationships, especially when you're young and you're growing and you're figuring out, all about relationships, all about yourself, and all about how to have that, cohesiveness like you were talking about. So that's really where we are here with this whole, what are attachment styles and how does this look in a relationship, and how is this impacting your relationships if you are in a relationship? This is going to be very important for us to dig into, because then once we really, what I think would help her is to find out which attachment style she has based off of the qualities that we're going to go through, and then work to change it if it finds out to not be the secure attachment style, which is the ideal attachment style that you want to have. So I think that would really be the most beneficial thing for her into this and for all of our viewers. So yeah, you want to get on in?
Let's do it. Okay. All right. Number one is anxious and preoccupied attachment. So a person with an anxious, preoccupied attachment style is likely to have had a childhood where they felt insecure and uncertain about their caregivers' love and attention.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one.
So the child's caregivers may have been emotionally distant or unavailable. Mm-hmm. So this made the child feel like they couldn't rely on their caregivers for emotional support. The child's caregivers may have been critical or rejecting of them. This made the child feel like they were not good enough and that they didn't deserve love and attention.
Yeah. So that's the childhood of this anxious attachment style. Now, again, we're just going to go through what this looks like. We're not here to diagnose you, but there are core characteristics of what, these attachment styles will look like and how it will play out in a relationship. So if you acknowledge that, your childhood may have looked like some of the things that we're going to go through, then chances are you are more related to that type of attachment style. This is also to point out, this can apply for the man or the woman.
Right.
So, this is going to go both ways. Although this question was sparked by a woman, this could also apply for men who are,
This
way.
is how a lot of psychologists diagnose people anyway. I mean, because they go back to their childhood and that's what they ask about and how was you raised and your relationship with your parents.
Yeah.
So this is what therapy looks like.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the brain is programmed. The brain is
It's a
the
computer.
the most magnificent computer in the world that God created. So from that, we are programmed. And unfortunately, we don't have much control over that programming from a certain age. And yeah, it's just tough because if you really didn't have much control over that and you did end up with neglectful or abusive parents, then the impact is it's very impactful. So you really just have to analyze if this was something that you went through and how it could impact you. So for example, the child's caregivers may have been stressed or anxious themselves. So if your parents are stressed out, this is very common within single parent households where the mother or the father is having to take on the full load of two parents. This can make them extremely stressed. It's not that, the parent means to put their stress on their child, but, it's just the result of being within the environment. So it could actually make it really hard and difficult for the parent to be responsive to their child in that time. So because of that, it could be neglect that, impacts the child. Often the child may feel like they're the one having to raise themselves. It could be inconsistent. It could be unpredictable. And it can also end up with the child feeling that anxiousness and worried about the future and worried about being abandoned or even worried about being taken care of, all because of, that happening. So yeah. Another characteristics of that attachment style is that they would have a difficulty trusting others. So if you are anxious or insecure attachment within your adult relationships, you are also more likely to experience anxiety and depression because of this. So it's just really important to, pay attention to how this could play out within your overall dating and even your day-to-day life.
Yep. So people with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles are often very intense and passionate in their relationships. They crave intimacy and closeness, but they are also very insecure and worried about being abandoned or rejected.
Mhm.
So, and also, people with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles may consistently need reassurance from their spouses that they are loved and wanted.
Yeah.
They may also ask their spouses repeatedly if they still love them, or they may become upset if their spouses don't respond to their text or calls right away.
Yeah. And that anxiety, that plays out big time. And, it could even be amplified based off of your, day to day. If you are naturally struggling with anxiety or depression or anything like that, then you apply that into a relationship. It could really, amplify things and make things worse. So that could also make anxious, preoccupied attachment styles look like clinginess within your relationship. So you may be really clingy or really demanding in the relationship what your spouse needs to do or how they need to come around or whatever. You may always need your spouse to be around you and never be open to them, spending time with other people and their friends, especially early in the relationship if you're dating. And so, that could be troubling at certain points, especially if one spouse is more social than the other. So that it just could really play out differently. But also too, it can look like you maybe falsely accusing your spouse of not spending enough time with you. They could possibly not spend enough time with you, even if they're always with you. So it could just really play out different. Yeah.
So people with anxious, occupied attachment styles may be jealous or possessive of their spouse. They may worry about their spouse will leave them for someone else, or they may try to control their spouse's behavior.
Yeah.
So people with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles are very sensitive to rejection. They may take even the slightest hint of rejection as a sign that their spouse doesn't love them anymore. This can lead them to becoming upset or withdrawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this could also play out like with you're dating and you just get rejected one time and then you just like, oh, I ain't never doing this again. So you just don't even go out and try to ask that girl out anymore, or give that guy give that guy your number anymore. So it can play out differently.
So people with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles often have difficulty trusting their spouses. They may worry that their spouse are going to hurt them or abandon them, even if there is no evidence to support this. This can make it difficult for them to relax and enjoy the relationship.
Yeah. So if you are in a relationship with someone who is anxious, preoccupied attachment, then it's really important for you to be patient and understanding. A big part of this is going to be learning about all of these attachment styles anyway, because also not only if you're able to recognize this within yourself, but also maybe even your spouse if you are in a relationship. So what you're hoping for is the secure attachment style, which we'll get to last. But if you try not to be judgmental on yourself or your spouse if you recognize that they may have one of these other attachment styles,
Right.
because awareness.
So I mean, what I'm gathering from this too is that like that female, that her failed relationships were more than likely her and her attachment styles.
Yeah, very well could be.
So I mean, that's a self-reflection point. So for all those people out there who have multiple failed relationships, you may want to discover as we go along what type of attachment style that you have and work on these things, like my wife is saying. Because more than likely that those failed relationships can be also a contributing factor, played a part by you as well. So just be mindful of that.
Yep. This also means if you're in a relationship with someone with anxious, preoccupied attachment in particular, it is important to be supportive. So say you recognize this, but you love your spouse, it's good for you to be able to be there for them when you need them and to let them know that you're not going to abandon them, to offer that reassurance. That's always healthy to be able to do, especially if you recognize that they may have something like this going on. Of course, we always recommend therapy. Don't use your spouse as your therapist. Vet your therapist on top of that. Make sure that it is a very good therapist who is married, who checks sane,
Right.
checks all those good boxes. But, that's also one thing to certainly be able to recommend to your spouse if you notice one of these other ones as well. But, it's also important to set boundaries for someone who has an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. So this could mean like letting them know, what you are and are not willing to tolerate.
Your boundaries.
Certainly. So if they're like constantly jealous or like controlling, not letting you, possessive, not letting you hang out with your friends or whatever the case may be, then, you may need to set some boundaries to that.
So it is important to communicate openly and honestly with someone who has an anxious, preoccupied attachment style. This means letting them know how you are feeling and what you need from them. It is also very important to listen to their concerns and try to understand where they are coming from.
Yeah. But this also too, don't neglect yourself in that either. So, if it's too much for you to handle or whatever the case may be, be honest about that and let them know, it's too much. Yep. So let's go on to the next one,
which is the dismissive avoidant attachment. So we're going to a new one now. So people with dismissive avoidant attachment styles often had childhoods where their caregivers were emotionally unavailable or rejecting. This may have been due to a number of factors such as parental neglect, abuse, or mental illness. So as a result, these children learn to suppress their emotions and to rely on themselves for comfort and support. They may also become independent and self-sufficient at an early age. This can be helpful in some ways, but it can also make it difficult for them to form close relationships in adulthood.
Yeah, and that sucks because it's really based off of just fear and being afraid of being hurt and rejected, kind of just like
her.
The anxious one, the other one. Yeah, they all kind of play, and you can see how they're all kind of, it's either the healthy one or the not healthy one, and all the not healthy ones kind of all play in together of some type of, being rooted in some type of trauma. But more in particular, it just makes it difficult to form those relationships from in adulthood, because in particular you really have a difficulty being able to trust others, and with like the dismissive avoidant attachment styles, it could probably give you kind of a negative outlook on people. And so when you're going to date people, you may believe that they're just always, or you may assume right away that they're just gonna let you down, or say like, oh, people always do this, you come to expect that, when that's not healthy to do at all. It's more so healthy to give the person the benefit of the doubt by also being aware of
Being
toxic
vigilant,
behaviors and such, so that you'll know whether or not they're good for you or not.
discerning, using discernment.
Yeah.
So people with dismissive, avoidant attachment styles may find it difficult to express their emotions. They may believe that emotions are signs of weakness, and they may try to bottle them up.
Yeah. And that's
And so people with also, these people may feel isolated and alone. So they may have difficulty connecting with others, and they may feel like they don't belong anywhere.
Yep. So because of this, you could probably see them pushing others away. They're more likely to avoid intimacy completely. Or in a relationship, this can even come off as like cold or aloof, like they're not even interested in the relationship when they really are interested in the relationship, but they just don't, show it. So that's just how that would kind of play out. And it's kind of like they're just not able to be affectionate or expressive because of the way they were raised. They're not used to that, so it could come off as them not being interested in you, even if like you're dating or whatever, and out on the date they could be spending time with you and you can't even tell that they're interested in spending that time with you because they're trying to give off that dismissiveness, just dismiss it, just avoid it altogether.
They also may resist commitment. So they may not want to talk about their future of the relationship, and they may be hesitant to make plans. So that sounds like that female that wrote that letter.
Yeah, because when you're just you're just like, oh no, like you just run away and you're just like, no. And this also could look like with a male, he may be like, oh, not wanting to put titles on the relationship, or not wanting to discuss like, what are we? That infamous question. He may not want to say anything about that. He may not want to say, oh, what his future could look like. He may say, oh, that's too much, or I can't think about it, or stuff like that. It's really kind of just avoiding the whole thing.
Yep. And they may not be attuned to their deeper feelings. So they may not be able to express their emotions, and they may not seem to understand their own needs.
Yeah, and that can make it super difficult to even form a relationship or tell your spouse what it is you want or need from them, or what you want, to do for them, or anything of that.
They're bad communicators.
Yeah. You just be very closed off to them, and maybe uncomfortable even with physical touch. Like he can go as far as that, where you're not even intimate with your spouse. You're fearful of intimacy, like having your spouse take things a little further with you. You may reject that, and be like, oh no, like, can play out like that too.
They may send mixed messages. So they may say that they want a relationship, but then they may pull away or act distant. So if you are in a relationship with someone who has dismissive, avoidant attachment style, it is important to be patient and understanding. They may need time to open up to you, and they may also, what was that?
Not be able
to give you the same level of emotional intimacy that you need. It is also important to set boundaries and to let them know what you are and are not willing to tolerate.
Yeah. So that would be for this guy, kind of with her saying, oh, we're just friends with benefits. That could kind of be where the crossroads of their relationship would come to, even though it's very early, like he would say, like, I want something serious. And if you're not willing to give me that same level of emotional intimacy, then, he has every right to walk away from the relationship.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, she has to see that she's pushing people away.
Yeah.
Because of that. I mean, it's hard. It's dicey. I mean, you have to understand that, if you, in her case, she could be a good person, but she's going about it all the wrong way in order to, she's hurt. So she's doing nothing else but hurting herself by having this, being, loose in this way of just, sleeping around with guys. And then this guy wants to have a real relationship with her.
Yeah.
and then he doesn't, and then she doesn't want to, so she's avoiding this. This is far way too common in the world today. You see a lot of people that do these type of things and just bounce around with sleeping partners and friends with benefits, and ultimately it ends into something that's detrimental, deeper depression, having children
Out of wedlock.
out of wedlock. People, just fall into shambles because of not, practicing discernment and not being intentional with their relationships. So,
and healing yourself.
Right.
I think a huge part of that is going back and doing that work, recognizing like, wow, if I've had these failed relationships, or if I've had this happen, why? And what was the part that, maybe I could have played in it as well.
right.
Yeah. And this would all come from awareness. So again, thank y'all for tuning in tonight, because this is very important for us to just all take a look at. You could even be in a relationship yourself and just see like, wow, I didn't know that I could have had some type of, behaviors that are a result from my childhood because of this. So this also is the first step into changing those behaviors, complete awareness. So again, thank y'all for tuning in as we go on through these attachment styles.
Oh. So number 3. So the third attachment style is fearful avoidant attachment. So people with fearful avoidant attachment styles often had childhoods where their caregivers were inconsistent, unpredictable, and may have been frightening or abusive. So this may have caused the child to feel unsafe and insecure. The child's caregivers may have been emotionally unavailable or rejecting. So this may have caused the child to feel unloved and unwanted. So children who have fearful avoidant attachment styles often learn to fear intimacy and to rely on themselves for comfort and support. They may also become independent and self-sufficient at an early age. This can help. This can be helpful in some ways, but it can also make it difficult for them to form close relationships in adulthood. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
They use this as a survival coping mechanism. So in adulthood, this will result in a fear of intimacy. They may worry that if they get too close to someone, they will be hurt or be rejected. So people with fearful avoidant attachment styles may find it difficult to trust others. They may have a negative view of people and may believe that they will always be let down. People with fearful avoidant attachment styles may have low self-esteem. They may believe that they are not worthy of love or attention. People with fearful avoidant attachment styles may feel isolated and alone. They may have difficulty connecting with others, and they may feel like they don't belong anywhere.
Yeah, this is like a mix of the anxious and the avoidant all together with some fear, amplified from all of that. So again, as you see, all of these three kind of just tie right on into each other.
And this is a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've came across people that carry relationships this way. So that is what, if you all can see what's going on, think of your past relationships, you can kind of analyze the people that you've dealt with, and you can see that they had some sort of some psychological things going on with them that were left unresolved. And now you see how important it is to actually get these things resolved, or at least allow the people who are themselves going through these type of avoidant situations, for them to see what's going on with them, so for it to be transparent to them, and so that they know and see that, hey, okay, I get it now. I've been trying to run away from relationships all my life, and I'm realizing that it is my fault, and I need to stop doing this because it's detrimental to me. In the long run. So,
and it could be unconscious though, like as much
as
it is.
Because if you don't know about it, it's unconscious. But it's the thing,
well, more and even more so, it could be an unconscious habit, where it's just something you keep doing and you really.
And then you need to, and then ultimately you have to be mature about it and hold yourself accountable for it. You can't just use it as a crutch. You can't do that. Because all you're doing is just breaking relationships. You start in and breaking relationships and hurting other people out of your own misery. So you're just a walking red flag until you can get yourself fixed.
Yeah, that's important to do because in particular, kind of with this fearful avoidant attachment style, you can see like a push-pull dynamic that will go on because initially they would be very interested in someone and they would give them their time and their attention, but then they may still start to pull back and they, things get deep, you start to show some interest, kind of like with this girl. The guy seems to show interest. He's showing more interest. He's saying, "Hey, I want a little more than just sex." And she's like, "Oh no, that's too much." That's that fear that's going to creep in. So then, it makes them pull back, but this can end up being confusing for the person that you're dating and quite frustrating. And also, it's not fair. So it's important to, like my husband says, you take that accountability to recognize that just because this happened in my childhood, I am now an adult. I can't change what happened to my childhood, but I can be responsible for how I respond now as an adult. So you really have to take the time to, heal yourself and figure out what's going on, what caused this, and, reprogram your brain in a bit, kind of like we always talk about. Yeah. These people may also really have those intense emotions that we talked about with the avoidant ones. So intensely, it could be those hot and heavy, passionate, loving relationships starting off, and then it just dwindled down into something that becomes very insecure, very anxious, very like, they start doubting, like, are you still love me? Those constant needs of reassurance. And, that can be difficult too with the spouse to deal with, to always feel the need to have to pick you up in the relationship. That's not your spouse's job, really. It's quite unfair.
Yeah, I mean, because that's that baggage that I always talk about. It's not fair
Yeah.
to bring baggage into relationships. I mean, a lot of the times, especially if it's not because of relationship, is it because of the way you were raised?
Yeah.
So I mean, I can clearly see that here.
Yeah. Yep. But all in all, with this fearful avoidant style, before we go into the last one, which is the secure attachment style, the fearful avoidant attachment is very much like the other ones where you have to be willing to let your guard down and you have to be willing to be a little more trusting, and that's the only way that you're going to build a strong relationship with somebody and open up and have that intimacy form, because that is intimacy is opening up with a person. Intimacy is letting your guard down. Intimacy is trusting and being open to the experience. You can't go into a relationship with fear. We always say love and fear are two totally different vibrations. They are not the same. So if you are fearful in any way, you're not going to be resonant with love. It's just not how it works. It's on two totally different frequencies, vibrations, literally science. It's different. So you got to really get a hold of that and get that in check so that you can really have some love in your life.
Yep. So now let's go to the secure attachment. So this is like the resolution?
Well,
or solution.
This is the attachment style if your parents were right on target with raising you in a supportive environment.
Well, I mean, all the other attachment styles should try to
be
mimic the
yes.
secure attachment style.
Yep, and what it looks like. Yep.
So this is important. So let's listen. A person with a secure attachment style is likely to have a childhood where they felt loved, supported, and cared for. So their caregivers were responsive to their needs and were always there for them when they were upset or scared. So the child, it felt like they could trust their caregivers and rely on them for help. This helped the child to be more likely to be confident and resilient. So as a result, the child who has a secure attachment style are more likely to have healthy and satisfying relationships in adulthood. So people with secure attachment styles are comfortable being themselves around others. They don't feel the need to pretend to be someone else they're not in order to be liked or accepted. Wow. They are also comfortable expressing their emotions, both positive and negative. They know that their spouses will love and accept them for who they are, even though they're feeling vulnerable. That reminds me a lot about like youth, growing up, and a lot of guys, I hung around a lot of guys, and everybody wants to be a rapper or somebody else that they are not, the way that we dressed and all that other stuff.
Versus being secure in yourself and
right,
who you are,
and
your own expression,
right,
and not feel the need to
mimic someone
prove.
else.
Yep.
But then again, children do that anyway. So that's just being a child in thought and wanting to be somebody more mature, more grown, and trying to mimic adults or what we perceive to be what an adult was, but not really.
Right. Yeah.
So people with secure attachment styles are not afraid of intimacy. So they are able to open up to their spouses and share their deepest thoughts and feelings. They trust their spouses to be there for them and to respect their boundaries.
Yeah, because that's intimacy. Like I was saying, like you gotta open up. You have to. That's real intimacy. I think the lady in this video, she equates love and intimacy with just sex. And truth be told, that's why this guy is wanting more. That's not intimacy. It's just sex. So a lot of times if you didn't receive that love from, your spouse, your parents, you may have a hard time understanding that love and sex is, not the same. So,
right.
Yeah. Also, too, people with secure attachment styles, they are able to communicate openly and honestly with their spouse, and they aren't afraid of, sharing those difficult thoughts, those difficult feelings, or even those moments where you're uncomfortable. You're okay with opening up with your spouse. That's what a healthy relationship actually shows. And on top of it, you're a good listener. So you're able to, understand where your spouse is coming from and validate their perspectives and be open to, learning and growing from another perspective, because that's what it is when you're two separate people and you're coming in, especially with the dynamic of a man and a woman. Like, we're just different, completely different. We're not the same at all. So a lot of the times our perspectives are totally different on things, and you got to be open to that in order to have that healthy dynamic within your relationship.
Yep. And so when conflict arises in a relationship, people with secure attachment styles are able to resolve it in a healthy way. They are able to communicate their needs and wants clearly and respectfully. They are also able to listen to their spouse's needs and wants and to find a compromise that works for everyone. Yeah. Healthy. That's healthy.
Makes me think of like people that act out in anger. They often didn't learn as a child how to process their emotions in a healthy way. You know how like we tell our son, like, we understand why you're feeling the way you're feeling right now. Think about why you're feeling this way and allow yourself to feel that way and then go through it. Don't just stay in it and act out in it. You got to move to the next step of that emotion for processing. And a lot of people didn't learn that, how to process emotions growing up.
Right.
Especially with our boys, our young boys. You have to boys have emotions too. Like, as much as they try to say, oh, they're hard up, boys have emotions too. So they have to learn how to process them in a healthy way so that they don't act out in, anger or, aggressiveness, because you don't know how to channel that energy into a different form.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of people go through that. They don't know how to channel their emotions, and so therefore they're mad at the world with things. I heard an example about that, but yeah, that's true. That's true. That's very true. So people with secure attachment styles are able to support their spouses and be there for them when they need them. They are not afraid to offer their help and advice, and they are also there to listen and to offer a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, the understanding.
Support. Yeah. So people with secure attachment styles are able to enjoy their own company, and they are not dependent on their spouses for happiness. They have their own hobbies and interests that they are able to feel fulfilled without a spouse. They also know how that their spouses are not responsible for their happiness, and that they need to find happiness within themselves.
Yeah.
They don't you don't have to seek approval from your spouse. You're fine with just who you are and this, doing your hobbies or whatnot.
Yep.
So it is important to remember that attachment styles are not set in stone. So they can change over time, especially with therapy or other forms of self-help. And just by being here with us, have already started the step to change your attachment styles if needed.
Yeah.
So now that you know that what these attachment styles are, you self-analyze yourself, so figure out what you may need to do in order to become better was that final, what was that attachment style?
The secure
Secure.
attachment
So you
style.
want to reach for the secure attachment style.
Yeah. Yep. And that's big because you both within a relationship, you want both of y'all to be secure in each other's love. You will be able to have that open relationship where you don't need to prove anything to your spouse because you know that your spouse accepts you and loves you. And in particular, that's big when it comes to man being able to perform and a woman being able to perform, because they will know that, hey, my spouse is here for me. They will see me on my worst days, on my best days, and will still love me and know like, hey, like they're willing to go through life with me. That's super important and super good. That's the best part of a relationship, I think, because you have that support no matter what through all the changes that life may bring. So you have to be secure in that, though. You can't need your spouse to always give you that reassurance or to constantly have to pick you up or carry you along or to even constantly, just dim their whole being because they're walking on eggshells and fearful of ticking you off or something
Right.
like that.
That's immense. That's what energy draining,
Mm-hmm.
and emotionally draining as well.
Yep. So, like you said, that's actually the first step into changing your attachment style. If you figure out that, hey, I kind of need to work on this a little bit. So, whether single or in a relationship, that's your first step, because ultimately this will help you to understand why you have that attachment style and then how it's affecting you in your relationship. So, go back, run this back again if you need to just kind of listen to figuring out again for sure how you can, identify your attachment style, because once you've done that, then you can work on to, the next steps. So we kind of have a couple more steps that you could do to kind of fix things. But in particular, you have to be able to identify your attachment style. So really go back and
be
listen
honest.
to that. Yeah. Have that honest thing. Yeah. That perspective.
And then also to challenge your negative beliefs. So if you have an insecure attachment style, you may have some negative beliefs about yourself and relationships.
Yeah.
So these negative beliefs can be holding you back, or they are holding you back from forming healthy relationships. It is important to challenge these negative beliefs and to replace them with more positive ones. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings when you are in a relationship. Pay attention to your thoughts and feelings. So also too, are you feeling anxious or insecure? So are you worried about being abandoned or rejected? If so, these are signs that you may have an insecure attachment style. And this reminds me of those negative comments. And I always bring this up, but the negative comments that we've got from people who watched our video that we did with the Daily Wrap-Up crew. And I could honestly say that without seeing this, that these people spoke from a place of lack or fear. These people spoke from a place of insecurity, and you can see it by what they typed and how they type things, and you can see and tell what the people who were in relationships versus the people who did not want relationships versus the people who wanted healthy relationships. And it was very clear. A lot of times people who are negative people, they don't want relationships because they've already counted themselves out and said that it ain't gonna work for them, and they tried it before and no, it don't work, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So
I think about this lady who wrote in particular, how she was saying, I just feel like what he feels for me will change at some point. That is a negative thought pattern that she has consistently held in her brain, that, oh, eventually they're going to leave me. Eventually they're going to cheat. Eventually they're going to do this, or some type of negative association will come along with it. And that's something that she's kind of convinced herself of. So in particular, that is huge for you to pay attention to, because you wrote it down and it's obvious that it's something that's reoccurring. So you have to be proactive in recognizing when this happens. Say, no, that's not always true. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of this deep connection. I am worthy of having a serious relationship more than friends with benefits. Tell yourself that you're worthy of this. And in particular, remind yourself that, hey, no, this guy said that he wanted something serious with me. Hey, no, that didn't happen that time. Or think of another time where things played out a little different for you. It's just like being able to give yourself that level of scrutiny where you could say, credibility to that thought per se. So you'll say, is this thought real? Is this thought based off of something, that I'm feeling? Am I feeling anxious or am I feeling insecure, like you had mentioned?
Right.
That's really what that's all about. In particular, though, if you do have an insecure attachment style, and all of the other ones besides the secure attachment style is an insecure attachment style. So that's the general form of it, whether you're fearful, anxious, or dismissive. Either way, it's important that you practice self-compassion. That's super important, as the child in you went through something traumatizing, and you may not have been the direct cause for the trauma, but you now have it and it's within you, and have that self-compassion for that and understanding, and be kind to yourself. This will actually help you along the way of being more secure within yourself, because when you're having these negative thoughts that come in your mind, you have to soothe yourself. You have to be able to talk yourself down off that ledge and say, hey, this isn't true. I'm not going to think this way anymore. Like, it's okay. You're safe now, especially if you had even traumatizing in the sense of, there was abuse or something involved. Remind yourself that you're safe. Remind yourself that it's okay. That's really important. And, some people can have a hard time with that, but you first have to be the first one to be compassionate with yourself and take care of yourself physically, emotionally. That means eating well. If you're having a bad day and you wake up, things aren't feeling well, reach for those high vibrational foods. Reach for those raw foods that are going to give you that energy and help pull your mind into a more lively, high vibrational thought form. If you go for those candies or those sweets that may comfort you, sugary wise,
chocolate.
yeah, because of the dopamine that your mind, the endorphins and the dopamine, that your mind, but dark chocolate in particular, is you got cacao. You got to be specific, because a lot of the high sugars will actually cause your brain to crash. Processed foods drain you down, like meats even too. It can make you sluggish and bring you down a bit. So just really have to be aware of all of that, because there's a lot that you can do within yourself to help yourself feel secure and confident overall.
Yep. And also to seek therapy or counseling. So if you are struggling to change your attachment style on your own, it may be helpful to seek therapy or counseling. It's necessary, I think. So a therapist or a counselor can help you to understand your attachment style and to develop strategies for changing it. Please vet your therapist, vet your counselors, make sure. I would choose a married man, more so myself. That's something that I would do.
Maybe too on the more of a natural side, not just trying to medicate you, dope you up and stuff like that. Like,
right. Well, I mean, that's up to you whether you want to take the medicines or not. But make sure they give some good sound advice. And then also too, you can, if you don't like your therapist, switch, get a new one, change them. But therapists aren't there to actually tell you what you want to hear.
So a good one should not.
Right. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah.
They need to tell you what you need to know. And things, and give you advice on what you need to change in your life. So be open to it.
Yep. And also be discerning on who you choose to be your spouse. Like, who are you allowing in your space? Yeah.
Right. And that's what, particularly for the girl who wrote in, she had multiple failed relationships in the past. And then, she may have multiple failed relationships in the past, and she didn't use discernment.
Mm-hmm.
She probably did not use discernment. You can't say that more enough, but a lot of people don't do that. They just jump in relationships, jump.
And then keep chalk it up to everybody's like that,
Right. But next thing they all worn down and used up real bad and mad at the world and mad at everybody who's happy. So stay away. And then you have to stay away from those people.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, this is why the work is important. This is really why we do what we do. Honestly, for those to be able to reach and connect with people, to give y'all that gentle nudge into a positive, uplifting way of changing the results that you're getting in your relationships. Because a lot of it really does start with the self, and you got to be aware of that.
And then this will let you know too that you need to, like my wife said, you need to change the things that you're doing, because especially if they're not working, use this as this advice, this information that we're giving you, to make a new change, to make a new decision in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially your thoughts, your thoughts, your thoughts, your thoughts. Whatever you're thinking, if your thoughts have not been getting you the results that you want in your life, you gotta change your thoughts. It's really the bottom line, and that's easier said than done because thoughts are built on habit. If you keep thinking a thought enough, it becomes a habitual habit that doesn't really need much in order to pop back in your head.
And then
So
manifest as well.
yeah, it really does. So yeah, you got to do
And
that.
then be patient.
Oh wait,
Oh,
one quick thing: if you are in a relationship, regardless, it's important to talk to your spouse about this whole attachment style thing that we've gone through. Let your spouse have this conversation. We really, again, this is another reason why we do this, is to open up conversation. So negative or positive, this should open up some type of dialogue within yourself or with your spouse. So go back with your spouse and let them know, you know, what you think your attachment style may be. Even if it is that secure attachment style, great. Let your spouse know that. Do one of those check-ins and say, hey, do you think the same? I think this, like, you know, things are going great. Awesome. I love you. Let's keep going. You know, let that be a moment of, you know, reassurance. But if it is something where you feel like, you know, I need to tell my spouse this because this will probably help them to understand why I have been acting the way I've been acting, then do so. Please do so. So then that way y'all can come to some understanding, and then y'all can work towards maybe implementing boundaries or implementing, you know, any type of thing that needs to be done within your relationship so that you can put your relationship more on a healthier side for yourself and your spouse. This will also help them to be more supportive of you. So, you know, they'll know what's going on. You know, it's all about having that open dialogue, and you really want that, especially when it comes to mental health within a relationship. You want to have that open dialogue with your spouse, so if you hit that rock bottom, you're able to feel comfortable to open up with them and say, hey, I'm going through a low right now. I may need some help, you know, or whatever the case may be. But you just want to have your spouse and you have that dynamic where you're able to be open and honest with each other about anything, you know, even something like this. But go ahead.
and then be patient. So be patient. Change your attachment styles. Changing your attachment styles can take time and effort.
Yeah.
It is important to be patient with yourself and not to give up. So with time and effort, you can change your attachment styles and have healthier and more satisfying relationships.
Yep. And that will be great for this lady that wrote in. I think, in particular, being able to recognize what's going on and get rid of this whole, she says, I don't get too attached, you know, figure out why and figure out how you can get yourself to feel more comfortable being attached to a spouse.
Being secure.
Yeah, that's the whole goal here, because we are not meant to be alone with the rising penalties of loneliness that has come upon our society, whether that's with individuals going through health problems and all types of mental health issues, and even to the worst down to self-deletion. It's super important that we address one of the major issues within our society, and that's loneliness. We are meant to be together. We are meant to be with a spouse. We are if you think you're great by yourself, imagine how great you and your spouse would be. So if you could just work on understanding how all this can kind of play in with you, and how you can work to be more comfortable and confident being in a relationship, then the better off it'll all turn out, for sure. And how great life will be for you, because that's ultimately what we're hoping, to build more relationships, to build more families, and in particular for our sweet generations that are coming up behind us, to help create solid societies for them, because that's really what we need. Our children need this: good families, good solid relationships, so that they can do the same.
Yep. All right. With that being said,
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
Oh yeah, let's turn in. Oh, we got a chat. She is fearful from the past. Yeah. And that's, you know, let me, hold on. Did it show it? There we go. Thank you. That's for your comment, because that's so true. And you know what? Like we were saying, it's unfortunate. It's a lot of society fearful of the past. And you know what, too? A lot of it could be ancestral. Like, it could be taking on trauma from what you heard Big Mama went through, or your grandmama went through, or even your mama went through, or even your brothers and your sisters, what they went through. Like, and then you kind of take on that trauma, and it makes you fearful too. And you're just like, oh no, like, you know,
Yeah, until
Yeah.
you experience it yourself, you really
Mhm.
shouldn't have any. I mean, but don't get me wrong. Like if somebody's telling you, like, you know, don't deal with this person because this person will manipulate you and use you,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
yeah, you need to be wary of these people and not, um, not, do things like that.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you really need to take good advice and take heed to warnings and things like that. But also
Mhm.
too, don't put yourself in a box and try to avoid relationships with good
Yeah.
people. With good people, use discernment. We had the whole video about discernment, and that's what the lack
Mhm.
thereof with a lot of young people is that we don't we the young people go for the cool. They want to do the
Mhm.
things that are cool, and they don't even use discernment. They
Or what
just
looks nice.
right. I
Looks
mean,
good.
yeah, look at that riot that happened in New York because of the PlayStations and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was just bad decision making. These you know kids out there just rioting and stuff because they want PlayStations. That's not
No.
discernment. That's not cool.
Not thinking, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's lack of thought. That's what you get. You get chaos, and so it ultimately rules your life when that happens. So don't let that happen to you. Don't be a product of chaos.
Yeah.
You know.
Or
So
fear.
right.
Yeah. Yep. Or let it create anxiety, all that other stuff. It's
Yeah.
so much that can come from that. That is so true.
Yeah. But yeah,
Any
we've
more comments? Hold on,
no.
let me check Instagram. Thank you, YouTube,
Yep.
Instagram, for tuning in. Run this back, play this
Yep.
back. For sure, if you send this to someone, if you know that they may need to break down and sit down and break it down and figure out if they have some type of attachment style, insecure attachment style that needs to be addressed.
Right. And we are almost at 300 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
Wow. I saw that recently. Last time I saw it, we was like 30 subscribers away from YouTube, but we have like over 6,400 something on Instagram. So if 600, 6,000 Instagram subscribers, go ahead and join our YouTube if you can. We really appreciate it. We
Yeah.
love the support. Thank you all. We've been growing drastically and dramatically
Beyond
and very
belief,
beyond belief, and really appreciate it. All the opportunities we have been getting and more to come. And we do this for you all, the community. We know that you all need the support especially with the questions and the videos we've been getting from viewers so far. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, I like to think of it as holding this space, this higher space for you all to be able to reach as well. Because truth be told, a lot of this stuff we had already done the work for, and we get it, we understand. We came from a lot of the hard environments that a lot of other people are in as well. So we understand that. And to have gotten this far to this place, it's only right to give back and to then help and, really hold this vibrational spot so that others can reach and obtain it for themselves as well. That's really the goal.
Yeah. So with that being said, Blueprint family, thank you all for coming out tonight.
Yeah.
And you all have a wonderful night.